You're recording.
Morning, Sadie. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Simon. How are you?
Yes, good. Valentine's Day yesterday. Another one.
Indeed.
Another one spent on my own to go with Christmas and New Year's Eve. So I thought it might be topical to talk about loneliness today, if that's all right, on a Monday morning, 7:30. Just wanted to cast some light on it because it's so prevalent at the moment. And there are times in my life when I have been, well, I don't know, there's a difference, isn't there, between being on your own and being lonely. Mm-hmm. And then you said earlier as well before this that there's a difference between loneliness and isolation. So maybe we could just run through a few topics in case, it helps anyone that's listening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what we've got to be mindful of at the moment is a lot of people are on their own, they're living on their own and spending a great amount of time in their own company. That's not necessarily problematic because we can take a lot of positivity from being in solitude if we frame it in that way and we see it as an opportunity to reflect, spend time in our own company, get creative, learn new things. It doesn't have to be something that has an adverse impact. Loneliness is when there's an inconsistency between the level of social interaction that we have and that which we desire. So it's not necessarily the fact that we're on our own, it's how we feel about being on our own and how much contact and connection we're having with other people. And on the flip side of that, people can experience extensive amounts of loneliness, even if they're surrounded by other people, if they feel that they're not having that sense of belonging, that sense of connection, if people don't understand them, if they feel that they can't be themselves, if they can't be authentic, then they feel that sense of detachment from other people. And I speak to people all the time who live with 3-4 other people, close family members, and who still feel desperately lonely because they don't feel part of something. They feel that sense of detachment. They can't speak up about how they're genuinely really feeling. They're masking what they're genuinely feeling, and it's this level of not feeling that we're understood can be really, really detrimental to that being part of something, that social well-being element.
It's so interesting. It seems to go back to that feeling of expectations again, and putting those expectations on yourself that it's something should help you feel in a different way. We deal with celebrities now, don't we? And later this week, I've got an interview with an international rugby player and saying the same thing, that it doesn't matter how much sort of applause you get and rapture you get sometimes, that can make you feel more alone, can it?
Yeah, because you feel that people wouldn't understand. And you could have someone who has, on the surface, every level of success, perhaps financial security, a loving family around them. And so other people, from an external perspective, they deem it to be almost something they can't understand because they think, well, hang on a minute, you've got everything. You're surrounded by people, you're adored by all these fans, if they are a celebrity. But that can still, it doesn't negate the fact that you can still feel desperately alone if you haven't got people to talk to and be yourself with, and you can't open up and speak out about what you're genuinely really feeling. And I think we've all been there, where you're bottling things up and you can't speak up to the people closest to you because you perhaps feel guilt, you don't want to be a burden, you don't want to worry people, so you just bottle it up inside. And that's the problem with loneliness, is that it directly feeds having a detrimental impact on their mental well-being. But then conversely, the more we're suffering with things like anxiety and depression, the more we withdraw from other people, and the more sort of mental barriers we create that stop us speaking up and speaking out. So we feel even more alone, and round and round it goes. So it does prove problematic, and it's equal as well. People associate loneliness with being more detrimental to our mental well-being, but it also has a profound impact on our physical well-being as well. So it is problematic, and it is something that we need to actively talk about and recognise and understand that just because people are with other people, it doesn't mean that they don't experience loneliness. A lot of assumptions that it's only something that affects the elderly, and that's really not the case at all. A lot of people think that it's just something that people experience if they live out in the middle of nowhere, and that's, again, not the case at all. We just need to increase the understanding about what it actually means, how it can manifest, and how it can make people feel, and what we can do about it, essentially, particularly at the moment.
Yeah, I know it's prevalent. Well, I can speak from a male point of view because I don't know, men get to a crossroads where they sort of lose a lot of their friends. Yes, you still have your mates, but your life goes off in different tangents, and you're continuously trying to create new bonds with people who are where you are at that time. But in your past, you know, your old mates, you'd be down the drinking crew, you know, in the pub when you were younger and everything else. It's a very different relationship. So you're continuously comparing your new relationships to your past relationships, and maybe these ones, okay, they're great on a level because it's work, but then once effectively once 5 o'clock comes and the phones go down, you are lonely. Now, someone told me an alarming thing the other day, someone not too far away from me here, that loneliness can kill more people than smoking.
It's certainly more detrimental to your health. Yeah, there's a growing amount of research to suggest that, because it does have such a profound impact, as I say, not just on us mentally, but physically as well. And it does contribute to levels of anxiety and depression. It does make people more likely to smoke, to drink, to use certain drugs to try and cope. It weakens our immune system, makes us a lot less likely to exercise, to get out, to feel motivated, and just, you know, ends up having that profound impact where we don't want to go out, we don't want to engage, we don't want to interact with other people. We start to question ourselves, we start to feel that we're not good enough, our self-esteem starts to plummet. And this is what I mean, that we start to withdraw even further. So the more lonely that we feel, the more we question whether we are deserving of feeling part of something. And that's fundamentally something that's really, really impactful on our core need to belong. You know, this goes back to survival instincts, prehistoric times, when we wanted to gather around a fire together because we were stronger in numbers. And the minute something happened that we felt that we didn't belong as part of that at that point would be something detrimental to our physical well-being, because it meant we were further at risk. If we were sort of chucked out of the tribe, so to speak, and we're out on our own, we couldn't benefit from the food gathering from the group. We couldn't benefit from everyone being safer together. So this is why there's such an intrinsic sense of us need to feel part of something, and this sense of belonging. And you know, you mentioned about having different connections in different ways and how we draw comparisons, but it's good. It's good to have variety and diversity in our different senses of connection and community, in the different areas in which we feel a sense of belonging. So we have perhaps work associates, we have people who have common interest in relation to hobbies or pastimes. You know, I'm part of a husky group on Facebook, a running group on Facebook. You know, I've got my work colleagues that I interact with, I've got some friends. You know, we have different senses of connections, and we're often quite different people with those different groups as well. But it's about having these different areas of people that understand us, that we feel that belonging, that's I think really needed, particularly at the moment.
Yeah, and while we're on the sort of the little tips, when I was down, I was isolated in terms of geography and in terms of work and stuff like that. It's a really, really horrible place to be, actually, to feel lonely. And the more people want to help you, that made me feel more lonely, because I was like, no, I'm fine. And then almost creating a bigger divide between me and them. Right, social labeling. So Valentine's Day, everyone should be like, oh, my mio. Christmas, New Year, Happy New Year, and all this sort of stuff. Now, when you get society putting even more pressure on you, through no fault of its own necessarily, I mean, these are traditions of yesteryear, it does have an effect, doesn't it? It does have an effect. Is that because you've then got a benchmark, a comparison?
That's what you said earlier about the word should, and what we talked about previously, the fact that we're looking at other people sharing their pictures of their beautiful Valentine's meals, or the roses that they received, and all the cards that they've got, and all these things. And of course, it's going to make you draw comparisons.
The postman must have got lost around here.
I'm sure. But yeah, of course, it's going to make you draw these comparisons about what you should be doing and what other people are doing, and why aren't you doing that? And I think, to me, social media is a funny one in relation to social connection, because, you know, in some ways, like I just mentioned, the groups I'm in, it makes me, when I'm feeling lonely, I've got those different connections with people across the world. But in other ways, when you're passively receiving all this information from other people, it can draw you into that spiral where you're just scrolling through and questioning yourself. And the key thing with social media, one of the key things, is the more that you engage and interact with it and are actually part of groups, and you comment and you post, and you know, you use it as a tool of communication, that's something that's really powerful for your well-being. But when you're just passively scrolling and absorbing what other people are doing but not engaging in it, that's more detrimental to your well-being.
Yeah, and then you're in a critic and is sometimes digesting that in a different way. It could just be a nice post that someone's walking, but in your head it's like, you're not with anyone, you're not walking with anyone. Right, we've got 20 seconds left. WhatsApp groups, we're using voice notes now to friends, because you get a better sense of togetherness. You can really have a bit of a laugh, people singing along to that. I use Alexa, you know, 80s R&B, please Alexa, don't turn on them. And maybe managing social media. Look, we've got 2 seconds left. Any pearls of wisdom before we go?
No, just keep talking, keep reaching out to people if you do think they've gone a bit quiet, and yeah, making sure that people aren't left out on their own.
Right. Thank you ever so much. We've got to go.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sadie. We've got a busy day today. 2 new starters, haven't we?
We have. Exciting times.
Very exciting times.
Yeah.
I will obviously see you in a minute later in the day. Failing that.
Probably in about half hour.